My question's for Jessica as well. After the events of June 24, were you politically disillusioned leading up to the federal election? And do you believe that the results would have been different if Julia Gillard didn't take the Prime Ministership?
Look, I'm not disillusioned actually. I'm a bit of an idealist. I feel like there is great hope for our young democracy. I think that there's a lot that we can do, and here we are in this situation where it's a pretty tight result, actually an exceptionally tight result. We don't have a result, do we? but that's okay. I think that what it means is that we all get a voice now. We all really get to participate. We have these strong independents with strong voices, and yeah, I think it's a good thing for us as a country.
What about the other half of that question? Do you think the result would have been different if Julia Gillard hadn't taken the Prime Ministership?
I don't know. I guess we'll never know the answer to that question, and I don't really believe in playing woulda, shoulda, coulda. I'm all into moving forward.
Okay, nicely put. Chris Berg. I'd like just to pick up on the question. It's a question for everybody, really. Would the election result have been different if Julia Gillard had not taken the Prime Ministership?
Yeah, I would be surprised. I think that the moral leadership that the party apparatchiks in the Labor Party saw Kevin Rudd had lost, I think that was an interpretation of the way he was being reflected in the electorate. I think the cancellation of his ETS plans, or at least in the short term, his failure to go to a double dissolution, I think that really dropped a lot of support out from underneath him when he'd come to the 2000 election with such a coherent and such a strong, vision for pros and cons. Kevin Rudd had a big plan for Australia. He just utterly failed to enact it. And I think that they were...
Chris. Sorry, I'm going to have to stop you there. We got through. I was living overseas during the financial crisis, living in London. All my mates in London were saying to us, "Oh, how did you do that? How did you get through that with, relatively unscathed?" And we did. I think it's a fantastic achievement. I think my dad should be very proud of his record. And I think that, Prime Minister Gillard should be proud of her government's record as well.
I'm obviously not convinced about some of the stimulus measures, but that's quite separate to a failure of the Rudd government to sell the fact that it had to delay the policies of 2007. It had to let them slide for a couple of years. It didn't sell that, and it quite publicly admitted that it was unable to go ahead with some of its major policies and wasn't able to stand up for that. I think that was the failure of the Rudd government, was a failure to sell its message properly.
I've got to ask you to respond to that, or...?
Look, I just think that that Dad should be really, really proud of what he has achieved. And I think that here we are, we've got through this horrible financial crisis relatively unscathed, and of course things had to go on the back burner. I understand that, but I've never had to run a national economy before, and I don't know about you, Chris, but
no,
I think it'd be a pretty tricky deal. What about you, Malcolm?
Malcolm.